Hey everybody, it's me Nancy. Just got off work and wanted to jump on here and get my weekend started. And before I did, I wanted to come on here and do this video pretty early. Shout out to Chief Red Wolf. I caught the end of your live. I was in meetings all day, so I'm going to go back and rewatch it and comment. Also shout out to Kamira Owa. He did a really quick 10-minute release yesterday afternoon of his video about the Chazars. Unfortunately, YouTube has been blocking anything when it comes to the Khazarian Empire, right? If you say those words, then they shadow ban you. So my thing is, you guys go out there and support, go out there and support Camiro. He has some fascinating work, as does the research guy, Chief Red Wolf, James Wootenbranch, I think is what it shows up on YouTube. I reshare a lot of his stuff, so if you just scroll down and look at the videos that I've shared, you'll see him. I highly recommend that you guys subscribe to Kamira on Patreon because they are doing a lot of censorship. I'm just a little person. I just read and kind of give you my opinions here and there and kind of connect the dots with you guys. If you've been following me since I set up this page in 2019, I've done a lot of books, a lot of reviews, and I have a backup channel called Mind's Eye 4555 TV, which I haven't really posted a lot to that, but just so that you guys are aware that I do have a backup channel. Also, I do a lot of stuff over on Facebook and the Facebook group that I founded just to kind of catalog some stuff. It's called The Ancient Astronaut Theory, The Real Truth, and I do a lot of private stuff within that group. So send me a group request. Go look for us out there. And myself or my son, Alex Denatra, a.k.a. He goes by the Priest of Ashes. He goes by Cosmic Space Dad. He goes by Woden. He's got a couple of different handles, you guys. But he also is administrator on that page, and he'll be more than happy to add you guys. Before I get into this reading of the dome and the outer space projection, I wanted to make sure that I shout out No Scaphandra, meaning no confusion, Claudio Nicelli, in his former books, The Hidden Lands Beyond Antarctica, Land of Mars, Terra Infinita, and The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Walls. Also, shout out to Howdy Mikowski, exposing the expositions from 1851 and 1915. This discusses the World's Fair in depth. Okay, and that gives support to what we're talking about here. So there's multiple people that are discussing this stuff. It's just whether or not everybody's putting the puzzle pieces together. So before I get into it, I just wanted to give a shout out to those folks and, point you in the direction of getting these books to build your library, right? So where I left off was on chapter 16, and it says, The Fire of 1666, the battle between the Great Tartary and the Greys of Orion. It says, the story goes that in 1666, a devastating fire swept through only in London and was one of the most catastrophic events kept in history books even today. But the reality on unearthed documents and the testimonies of the ancestors here in these lands tell another story. Okay, remember he's in the ancestral city, ancestral lands, El Arca over there, okay, beyond the ice walls. So he says, according to the documents, this fire was actually due to a much wider and devastating conflict that took place on a large scale and not just a specific part of the known continents. Here are revealed clashes between two powerful civilizations, the Great Tartarians and the Orion Greys, who were in charge of the great human colony during the time of the war between the Custodians and the Anunnaki. The Orion beings had established temporary operational bases, and some leaders had taken position in custodian bases, mainly under the Great Oceans. Also, Sean Ryan, a couple of days ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago, did a podcast with a gentleman. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He did a podcast with a gentleman that basically gave credence to them having underground bases and extraterrestrial involvement. I'm checking on my iPhone real quick. Let me see. Sean Ryan. Let me look him up. Shout out to Sean Ryan. He was interviewing Tim Gallaudet, Galaudet, episode 113. Sean Ryan. Shout out to Sean Ryan. All right. Check that podcast out too. That's like 2 hours and 31 minutes, right? And also, Joe Rogan had a couple people on talking about the extraterrestrial bases in Antarctica. So, look, it is real. Y'all can choose to accept it and believe it and do your research, or know it and do your research, right? I know for a fact it exists, right? Because I had them visit me when I was pregnant with my son. So I already know what the deal is. And it says, during the time known as 1600s, they wanted to start taking over energy systems and seeing the great development of the Tartars. A great scramble to regain control began, possibly by order of the custodians. As London burned with fire, a series of other similar explosions and attacks broke out in other parts of the Anakin underground cores, unleashing chaos and confusion on a grand scale. The Tartars would soon begin their counterattack. In what we now know as Moscow or Russia, there was a huge center that was attacked by fires that consumed large structures and libraries with ancient knowledge. Advanced defense technology was used to repel this part of the attack and not suffer great losses. But the same was beginning to happen in Beijing, China, and especially in Egypt. The Greys tried to activate ancient Anunnaki technologies to increase power, but the Tartars, aware of the importance of these structures, quickly intervened. The actual conflict between the Greys and the Tartarians during the fire of 1666 was a struggle for control of the energy grids and the latter, with the great development based on free energy. Tesla didn't discover it. He rediscovered what was already there, y'all. Okay? And it says, and the latter, with the great development based on free energy, had built a generating and conducting grid that maintained the balance of power all known lands within the first dome. The Orion Greys, even trying with all their technology to destroy these centers, did not succeed and were partially defeated. This would also mark a before and after in their direct relationship with the custodian leaders in the future. There are also reports that the Tartars were tired of their increasingly frequent abductions of humans. And they still doing this shit today, y'all. Still doing it. The Greys, when really worried about losing their control, began to use time manipulation technology to try to destabilize the defenses of the Great Tartary. This caused great natural disasters and turmoil in many parts of the known lands. The Tartars returned everything to the equilibrium over time, all right? It says the conflict accumulated in a state of attrition. Although the Greys caused great damage, they could not completely break the defenses of the Anakin. Although this conflict would be key to understand their technology to defeat them later during the Great War of 1728. Check this out. Look at this. Y'all see that? That shit was on fire. And if you look at every major city around the world, here's the battle. Here's where it starts. Every major city around the United States, actually, let me just walk that back. Every major city in the United States had a great fire, had a great destruction. And you got to ask yourself why. Who was behind that shit? Okay, so this is a representation of the beginning of the Great War. Look at that. Beautiful, isn't it? Man, just the buildings and just the knowledge. Let's jump into chapter 17. The 1728 reset. Having lost the war against the Anunnaki, the custodians returned to find their most prized human colony in a state of great technological advancement and rebellion. Fearing they would lose control completely, the custodians again joined the Anunnaki in a treaty to plan a new reset. So you see, we've been bamboozled from the very beginning, y'all. We have not been told the truth. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's not about belief. It's about knowing. It's within our epigenetic memories. We can tap into this, right? By diet, meditation, getting sun, grounding, water source. We can connect to the Akashic records, the higher self, the oversoul, the creator of all. I'm telling you, it's much deeper than what anybody can actually fathom in their minds. It really is. It's fascinating, scary, makes you angry, makes you resentful. It makes you in awe, because once you learn the truth, you really are like in awe that this has been hidden from us. I'm fascinated by it. I truly do want to go to the city. I want to be in that library reading, and I want to eat real food and be able to meet other races and share in knowledge and grow in understanding and in consciousness, right? Yeah, it's a dream of mine. So it says, during the chaos, some Anakin giants helped many ancestral humans to recross the southern passage and reestablish themselves behind the first dome in the ancestral lands and the Shiki lands, which is the giants, okay? This would lead to the repopulation of the known lands by the seventh generation, the current new humanity, which is us, which is you and I, okay? For this many strict control changes, new diseases, and limiting longevity was absolutely paramount. The creation of the simulation of the universe in the same invisible dome with advanced technology was one of the most powerful modernizations of the custodians that absolutely challenged the new humanity on the understanding of their environment, thus creating several filters of fragmentation of the society and technology and discouraging exploration along with the total manipulation of the loyalists, the group of humans located at the top of the hierarchy pyramid that would help these custodian beings against their own brothers for promises of all kinds of things. Like Chief says, he knows how it ends. My son Alex, he cracked his pineal gland. He has a direct connection with Source. He knows how it ends too. And I dare to say a lot of us really know how it ends. These entities or these beings were made promises of things just because they've been able to see technology and see these beings. Who are they really working for? They're not working for us. And I think it's going to come a time where they're going to realize, what did I do? I really made a mistake. But it won't be no way to walk that shit back. I'm just simply saying. It's just my observation. So it says, as well as monitoring systems, creation of artificial ice walls, creation and manipulation of the weather, especially in the attitudes near the dome, creation of military bases, and development of custodial technology given to the loyalists, technological advancement system regarding the generation of earthquakes in case of anomalous detection in areas bordering the dividing ice walls. Here you go. Joe Rogan had a gentleman on several months ago, talked about he worked in the base for Antarctica and he had he had access to different areas of the base. And he talks about the technology that they had down there that they had fired up and caused a earthquake in New Zealand, Christchurch, New Zealand. And if I'm not mistaken, downed a couple of aircraft. You got to go do your research. They're doing all kinds of stuff. Project Bluebeam, what the hell is that? I mean, it's just, the fires in Hawaii, fires in California. I mean, directed energy weapons. Why do you think the super rich were painting their roofs blue? Go look it up. For my family and friends who see this, they're going to go, Nisi, what are you talking about? Go look it up and do your research. See, it's supposedly it's 2024. But we know they jack with the calendar. It's actually 1024. There's no reason why you have these little devices in your hand, why you can't go research the stuff. Antarctica. Let me go see if I can find that. Guys. Eric Hecker. He was an Antarctica firefighter for Raytheon and exposes a scary earthquake. That's who it is. Eric Hecker. He has a 3-part interview. You need to go look it up. He has episode 66. Man, I'm telling you. He had Tucker Carlson on here. He's had Billy Carson. Sean Ryan has not had Terrence Howard. Joe Rogan has had Terrence Howard. I'd suggest you guys go check out that too. Just a lot of interesting guests, All right, let's get into chapter 18. Gonna redirect, all right? Don't want to make this long. We're going to zip through this. Chapter 18, Human Timeline. From the 1st to the 2nd to the 3rd to the 4th to the 5th to the 6th and to the 7th, okay? It says, from the Book of Hidden Lands Beyond the Antarctica, the continuation of Morris's journey between the interconnected planets. In a human timeline, considering the years inside the invisible dome projector, the IDP, we consider the following approximate data are always considered. The first humanity of Hyperborea or Asgard started about 14,000 BC. The reset was 12,542 BC. Okay. The cycle length was 1,458 years. First generation, that was the first generation. Second generation was 11,089 BC. The reset was 9,539 BC. That cycle length was 1,558 years. The third generation was 9531 BC. Reset was 8056 BC. Another 1,475 years. The fourth generation, 8,056 BC, reset 6,375 BC. Cycle time again, 1,681 years. Y'all starting to see a trend here? Fifth generation BC, 6,375 BC. The reset was 4722 BC. Cycle time, 1,633 years. Sixth generation BC, 4,742 BC was the beginning. The reset was 1728 AD. Cycle time, 6,470 years. Wow. Seventh generation, which is you and I, okay? Beginning in 1728 AD. Current status, 2024 AD. Cycle time, 296 years, okay? That's what it says, all right? Reset of the first humanity of Hyperborea, Asgard. It gives a breakdown. Reset of the first generation. Event, increase of forbidden knowledge, beginning of external contacts. The duration was 1,053 years. Second generation, the event, contact with extraterrestrials, increase of critical thinking. Okay. The next event, which was the reset of the third generation, rediscovery of the true nature of the dome and the rebellions. The fourth reset was the war and external intervention of the archons, which is better known as the giants. Okay. The fifth reset, internal conflicts, internal alliances, increase of spiritual knowledge. The sixth reset, which was the Great Tartary, which was 1728 AD, that great war against the custodians and the Anunnaki, intervention of the Anakin giants, and the creation of an advanced empire. Cycle time, 6,470 years due to the conflict between the custodians and the Anunnaki. The human colony was relegated from the custodial control, passing into the hands of the Orion Greys temporarily. For that reason, many years of advancements were reached. Well, should we thank the Greys? I don't think so. Seventh generation, the new humanity today. Began in 1728 AD. Current status, 2024 AD, and we're counting down 296 years. I did a little math on Facebook the other day. It said, we can then infer that the average duration of overall human development was 1,500 years, but vary due to disruptive events forcing custodians to perform early resets, except for the exception during the sixth generation. Each cycle is ended with a violent reset with the introduction of new control measures. And if you think this is BS, you can go look up Robert Schoch, where he talks about the erosion on the pyramids. Like there's been multiple floods, mud floods, and multiple cataclysms. That's why you see all these buildings are these where they paid nod to, like the pyramids in Giza, Teotihuacan in Russia, Peru. They always talk about these pyramids all around the world, but they don't ever talk about the stuff here in the U.S., in the North America, and Canada, and they do talk about Mexico, but they don't talk about the United States. They especially don't talk about the complex in the Grand Canyon. Okay. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Grand Canyon pyramids. Yeah, Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security. Yeah, they won't let you up there. There are ancient pyramids, artifacts in the Grand Canyon. I'm trying to see if I can get a picture of it up here. Continue. Here's the top of it on my camera. Can you see it? That's a huge complex in the Grand Canyon, y'all. I don't care what nobody says. They're off limits. They have Egyptian artifacts. They know the true old world is ground zero here in the Americas. I'm not going to say United States Corporation, because the corporation doesn't have anything to do with America. America is a true old world. And for those or anyone who sees this, I'm a autochthonous female. I don't consider myself black because there's no such thing, because it was based on a class, not your skin color. Okay. And so when I did my genealogy with Camuro a few weeks ago, week before last, Memorial Day, we did about 6 hours. I see 3 different tribes in my family. Plus I see English. I see people coming over on the ship. I know that people coming over on the ship and setting up shop here and migrating and integrating with the indigenous tribes, because I don't say Native American, because Native Americans are not to the Mongolian race that came down through the Bering Straits. Okay, so we already know that. So my thing is, when we start talking about, like Chief said earlier today, when we start talking about the history of the Americas, especially here in Turtle Island, some of you guys need to sit down and take a back seat and just listen to the old heads, because they have the knowledge passed on from their families. I was always taught that my great great grandparents were indigenous. They were from different tribes and they had their names, Blackfoot and Cherokee, but they always told me that. And so growing up in school, they would always say, oh, black people always got Indian in their family. Well, the reason why is because we were the indigenous tribes. We are the indigenous tribes. We're the true Udeans. No point in throwing shade or hate or anything like that. I'm not getting off task. I just simply want to express that so that you all need to stop calling yourself black. You need to stop calling yourself white. First and foremost, we are sentient beings in these avatar bodies. But when you get into this world and you start dealing with these crazy mofos running around, you really gotta man up and put your big girl and big boy pants on and say, wait a minute, there's really something wrong here. The illusion is for us to be categorized in separate races, not understanding that when we leave these avatars, we are sentient regardless. We live on. Period. Point blank simple. I could come back as an extraterrestrial in a different suit, in a different meat suit. So what? I'm still me. The bottom line is I'm always going to be me. I'm always going to be the sentient one, because I know what I am, and I know that this is only a temporary illusion, right? So let's read chapter 19 so I can wrap it up. So what it says is, reports on the first mankind of Hyperborea Asgard, document CBB 20012-1, base 3210T2H. That's a mouthful. Data obtained by the transmission of communications with the consciousness of the past. Using advanced techniques are analyzed, specifically those pertaining to the first humanity of Hyperborea Asgard. The aim is to obtain versions of their true origin that will answer key questions about human creation and the purpose of being. The first humanity is detailed that existed under ideal climatic and environmental conditions, categorized by its perpetual light and stable temperatures, allowing an unprecedented development. It was a kingdom where nature and technology coexisted in perfect harmony. It came to combine technological advances with a deep spiritual understanding, creating a society where free energy and telepathy were used naturally, thus facilitating a conflict-free and highly united community. The society was, let me see if I can pronounce this, egalitarian in all its conjunction, with a focus on the development of the inner self and the harmonious communication, or harmonious connection with that what surrounded it. It stands out and reflects its art and architectural creations. It should be noted that the main mission with this fight against the colonizing parasitic beings trying to penetrate the gates of the celestial lands was taken into account from the beginning of life under educational systems and purposes of technological advances to carry out the corresponding actions. This report of past consciousness in Hyperborea offers a unique account that could represent the apex of absolute human potential. Studying these accounts not only enriches our understanding of human history, but also provides clues as to how we might reconstruct some of these ideals in our present time. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't the Hyperboreans blue? I can't remember. I know about the different extraterrestrial races, and I'm trying to picture what they look like in my mind. All right, next one up. Contact testimonial number 5809 OSC, identified as Eleusis. Prominent member of the spiritual community of Asgard, specializing in the harmonization of natural and spiritual energies through music. Asgard is described as a place of eternal spring. With soft light and always pleasant temperatures, nature and architecture was in perfect harmony. Life revolved around community and cooperation. People devoted their time to agriculture, the arts and sciences, and above all, spiritual development and common welfare. There were no rigid hierarchies. Leaders were chosen for their wisdom and ability to meditate and guide rather than to rule. Technology was based on the use of certain crystals and sounds. Communication indicating advanced understanding in general. Time of self-discovery and enlightenment. Shortly before the clash with the custodians, colonizers, subtle changes in energy patterns and nature's behaviors were observed. Sages began to have troubling visions, foreshadowing great change or destruction, at which time we began to prepare for what was to come, though we were unprepared for it. The crash is described as not only a physical, but a spiritual collision, which ended up tearing the fabric of society as a whole and profoundly altered its way of life. Contact testimonial number 5821 OSC, the tyrannies. And he identifies as the tyrannies. And this is a warrior leader, veteran of the war against the custodians, profound knowledge of energy warfare tactics, and active participant in the defenses and conflicts that categorize the final period of the first humanity of Hyperborea Asgard. This testimony offers critical insight into the military strategy, the capture of prisoners, and the eventual subjugation of humanity by the custodian colonizers. The conflict began as soon as the custodians penetrated the domes and found our large centralized hubs in Asgard with a portal to Hyperborea. From the beginning, they tried to impose new power structures and resource extraction, all of which threatened free existence of humanity and the ecological and spiritual balance of our people. It is described how your people from the beginning tried to fight against these colonizing forces. The custodians were interested in an absolute domination. The inhabitants of Asgard used both their advanced energy technology and spiritual tactics that also helped during the rawest moments. It was attempted to destabilize the incursions of the custodians without causing massive destruction of the areas. Energy conducting crystals that could channel natural forces such as storms and telluric currents against the colonists without causing great damage were used. Many of the defenders of the Hyperborea Asgard were captured. The custodians used energy force fields to immobilize and transport the prisoners, generating great pain. Those captured were subjected to experiments and forced to work in the extraction of resources or in the construction of new structures, beginning to treat the human being as just a resource. And we are. They consider the human the breath of energy of these domes. Energy, human energy. Energy, period. Number one, commodity. All transmission of knowledge and practices related to the five masters was completely interrupted, partly also for safety. The custodians were never to know the real purpose of the creation of the human being. This testimony expresses the importance of the human endurance as an unwavering will from the beginning of the human years on the physical plane. Wow. That is freaking believable. So, I'm going to jump off here. We're going to stop at chapter 20. And when I come back again, we're going to read the five masters, the creators of humanity. So in short, what did we learn tonight, you guys? We learned a lot. We broke down the battle between Great Tartari and the Greys of Orion, how they came in, they burnt up all these major cities, and especially here in the U.S., which was the ground zero for the Republic. We learned, they had different transmissions from different beings that talked about this great war that happened in Hyperborea and Asgard. And more importantly, we can see that through all these resets, we've prevailed at some point. When they get to a certain level of understanding, the Greys the custodians and the Anunnaki hit the reset button. I am so sick of this BS. I know I've been here before. I know. I don't want to repeat the cycle. And if I do, it's because of choice and it's because of liberation for all that who will come after me. This is a great wealth of resource. Some of you will say this is so fantastical. It's not true. Your belief is your belief and your knowing is your knowing. And my understanding and my knowing is that this is real. This stuff actually has happened. It is happening right now, and it will continue to happen until we rise up together at fight as one in power. The key takeaway for me tonight is that I appreciate everything that you guys, the YouTube content creators that I follow, that you put out there, and know that your work is unwavering and it is appreciated. And I hope that by me reading a couple of these chapters and discussing this book with you guys and Lynn, it'll open your mind to new things. I really truly feel like we are here for a purpose in this time. It is a great time to be alive, though I fret for what is coming, right? But I know that there is more to just this existence that we have right now, right? We're working, we're on the grind, we're participating in this illusion. And many of my brothers and sisters just cannot get through their minds or get their heads out of the sand. They just can't do it. They're holding on to this belief. And, for the books that I've read and the experiences that I have when I go to sleep, because every night that you leave, every night you go into stasis with your body, your consciousness still remains and you go outside of your body. You travel to other dimensions and other worlds. So you have an experience every single night, whether you can recount it or not. So my point is that we need to get as much sunlight as possible. We need to ground as much as possible, and we need to train like this is our last rodeo, like there's no tomorrow. I truly believe we no longer have a choice. We have to ascend because this is the only way that it stops. We're on the 7th incarnation cycle right now. We are the 7th generation. Okay. So when is it going to stop? The buck needs to stop with us. Right? Some would argue that we are at our lowest level of consciousness, but I say we've endured through all of these previous resets and we're going to endure through this one. But let this be the last mother freaking reset. I truly believe the creator of all is not going to allow this to continue. Like the truth is going to come out regardless. And there are a lot of you that are holding on to these ideals of religion, of government, of all of these things, education that we've indoctrinated to from the very beginning. And those things are going to shatter, right? They're going to shatter. And I'm ready and waiting to sit back and see how these things end, right? Though some of us won't make it, some of us will. So I hope that tonight, by me reading this to you, that it has shed some light on some of the things that other folks have talked about, some of the things I've said in previous videos, and just understand that we had a short window to prepare in knowledge, in spirituality, in physicality, and knowing these things will help us to sustain for what's coming in the future. So, we're dealing with some very evil and corrupt people here, and they're being pulled by non-human entities, whether you want to believe it or not. It's true. So I hope you guys have a great night. Thanks for joining me. And remember what I always say, be the change that you want to see all around this earthdom or planet, because it's up to you and I to make a positive change. I'll talk to you guys soon.